Hello everybody, it's Fluffy Impact here with more scrolls, and today we're looking at specific scrolls from Order. We'll start off with the creatures, move on to structures, and then we'll go into enchantments, and lastly spells, because that's where most of the bulk of Order is, and I'm pretty sure it might be like that with everything, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm just going to jump right into creatures. First off, we have the Crossbowman. And Crossbowman is a 4/3/2 with ranged attack for 1. Good creature to run. I don't usually use it just because there are other spots that I fill with other Order cards that I like a lot more. And the 3 countdown, I like to attack a lot, and the 3 countdown doesn't really do it for me. But it is definitely a good card and has a place in Order decks. The Ducal Infantryman, a good card too. Most of the creatures in Order are pretty good. This one is no exception. I don't really run this one either, just because there's the other 2-cost creature I like a lot more, just because it represents more damage, even though it has less health. It can be killed by spark, stuff like that. But I prefer the other unit, even though this one is just fine and can work in pretty much any Order deck. So it's worth running. The Ducal Skirmisher. Always run this. Always run both of the Skirmishers. A 3/4 with Relentless, can't go wrong with that. Always run this. No, just always run it, no matter what. The Ducal Spearman. It's a 1/2/4 with Spiky, so it's worth running. It's a good wall, 4 health, and it deals damage to the things that attack it, so it's worth throwing in. It's great in mono Order decks. It's a good card. Good card. Good creature. And next, the Honorable General. With this next update, you don't really have to run this because of the Wings Captain, but for right now, always run Honorable General. Never have a mono Order deck without this in it, because this is the core creature. Without it, you're screwed. This is the best. You know what? I'm gonna go out there and say this is one of the best Okay. With Solemn Giant, Honorable General is the best creature in the game. Enough said. Night Scholar. It's a good beefy unit, like I said in the other scrolls quick overview, and it's good to have in. Well, with the late game, you can switch it out for other things like spells. Maybe the Crossbowman, I guess, which is one of them that might switch out with this, depending on the kind of style your play is. But the way I play, Night Scholar is a must. Royal Infantryman. You can make it work. Not really a thing that you want to use with late game Order, because you end up unless you get it like turn 1 right away, you're going to be sacking it the entire game, and you're never going to be using it, versus if you were to run a spell, you'd probably find a use for it anywhere during the game. So there's that. Especially because with Order, you tend to have a lot of options because of the way it works, the scroll synergy and all that. The Royal Skirmisher, always run it. Like I said, always run the Skirmishers because they're your main attackers because of Relentless. Always, always, always run the Royal Skirmisher if you're playing a mono Order deck. That's enough of that. And next is the Royal Spearman. Now, the thing with the Royal Spearman is it's between this and the Wing Shield. I wouldn't really run both because they're both 3-cost, 2/3s. If you want a spiky unit, you go with the Spearman. If you want a unit that can possibly be harder to kill, I'd go with the Wing Shield. But the plus to the Spearman is it's good. It's well defensive when it doesn't need to have anything else in the row, so it's not susceptible to the Puppet Soldier Nutrition combo, whereas Wing Shield needs to have 2 units behind it for it to be a really good wall, and it will probably be Puppet Soldier Nutrition if you're playing a Decay deck. So Royal Spearman is probably better versus Decay, but then other than that, they're pretty much equal, I'd say. Royal Vanguard is another extremely important card to have because of its ability. When its countdown becomes 0, all other units gain +2 attack until end of turn. It's very important, and it pairs extremely well with the skirmishers because extra relentless damage. Because the way I see it, there are two kinds of damage: relentless damage and regular attack. And relentless damage is very important. And this gives you an extra 2 relentless damage, which is fantastic. The Sinmark Zealot. It's a very gimmicky card unless you have some kind of really interesting combo to run with it. Like, I guess you could put Power Bound on it or Heritage for its sacrifice ability. Or Faith Chains, I suppose. But other than that, if you're playing mono order without gimmicks and you're just kind of going for the best deck you can, don't run this. It's not worth it. You'd be sacking it later on, just like with the Royal Infantrymen. And we're on to the Winged Shield. Like I said before, I kind of explained what this does with the Royal Spearmen. It's, well, good defensive when there are 2 units behind it, but you don't want to put 2 units behind it when you're playing Decay because of Puppet Soldier Nutrition. Winged Soldier, the elites of the Empire strike with precision. A 3-2 for 2, that's pretty good, which is the reason I run it over the Ducal Infantrymen, because it represents more damage. Unless you have 3 units in a row with the Ducal, 2 other units with the Ducal Infantrymen, then they do the same damage, even though the Ducal Infantryman has more health. I prefer the Soldier just because it does more damage. Moving on to structures now, because that is the last creature in the entire set of Order until the next update, of course, where the Wings Captain comes out. So, on to structures. So, the memorials are, like, well, they're only good if you're running a multicolored deck, so I don't really need to get into them too much. When it comes into play, increase energy by 1, run these in an energy order deck. Simple as that. Mangonel. And, yeah, this is a good card. Though, if you're not going to be running Speed and Focus, this is an absolutely terrible card, in my opinion, because the way Mangonel works is you do Mangonel, Speed, Focus, and you take out 4 cards in one go. And, yeah, that's the basic board wipe for Order. That's the only real board control, the mass board control spell that they have. Speed, Mangonel, Focus. So, yeah, you're going to want to run these in mono order because then otherwise you're not going to have any form of board control, board wipe, sorry. And then if somebody gets ahead of you, it's going to be a really hard time to bring it back. So on to the Obelisk. Obelisk is a 0/5 wall. No abilities, nothing special. Not really worth running once you get the better scrolls, because there are better scrolls to run than the Obelisk. Much better. They're the better 2 drops, and structures tend to get in the way. So unless it's a really good structure that has an ability, or it's just really good, it's not really worth running, because then it just usually gets in the way of your units. Moving on to the Shrine. All other units you control gain 1 health. I can see the use in this, even though it's extremely frail at only 2 health, so it can be killed by Spark, Double Kabonk. A lot of units can kill it in 1 hit. It's just not all that great. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure you can run a nice with the totem. You could run a totem deck like the Shrine and the Ancestral Totem, and you can give all your creatures nice buffs. But this totem is really frail, and the 1 extra health could end up hurting you in the end, because you can have this can be keeping it alive like 2 or 3 units. The energy sparks it, and then you lose like 3 units because of that 1 play they made, and then that could put a real that could really mess up what you're trying to do. So I don't really run Shrine. I'm sure there's a use for it, and somebody's going to prove me wrong and show me that there's an absolutely amazing deck that runs this. But until I see it, I'm not going to use it. Waking Stones. This is the only structure... Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I forgot about Mangonel. This is the only real non-board wipe structure that I would run. It's a really great card. It takes 3 attacks. Though if you put a Crown of Strength on it, it can take 5, or if you put Shrines down, it can take more hits. So Waking Stones are great. Probably they're the best wall in the game, really. Except maybe the Scavenger Construct. That's a pretty good one too. But Waking Stones is one of the best walls you can get. And then last in the structures with Woodland Memorial, and just like Desert Memorial, run these in Order Growth decks. Other than that, they're literally worthless.